this important live update straight from the headquarters of Pioneer Lands because we have some interesting things happening in the age of AGI. New York State, you might have heard of it, a state on the East Coast that is home to the beautiful, greatest city on earth, New York City, just decided its Governor Hochul that they will freeze all data center buildouts. And that is a very, very important development because this impacts, at least psychologically and potentially more than psychologically, the entire AI market. We have heard a lot about states and public pushback against data centers. And data center buildout is at the heart of the entire AI story. It affects SpaceX, Colossus 1, 2, 3. It is very important for the stock that they can build out more data centers, but it goes way beyond SpaceX. It goes into the hyperscalers. It goes into OpenAI's and Anthropic's outlook of the future. And of course, it affects the entire semiconductor industry from NVIDIA to AMD to others, all the way to our favorite Micron technology and adjacent stocks like SK Hynix and SanDisk and many other people who produce memory, HDM memory, who produce the chips for the AI build-out. All these people are dependent on one singular question, and that question is, can we actually expand and continue the build-out of the data centers worldwide? And the US is at the heart of this entire build-out. So let's dive into it and see what's actually happening here and why we see SpaceX drop over the last 5 days 10%, and why today we see an entire set of semiconductors drop like little stones. I can show you more. Look at this. This is the bloodbath. SanDisk down 15%, Micron down 11% at the peak. It's already recovering a little bit. Intel up and down 9%, AMD down 7%, NVIDIA holding up pretty nicely. But clearly, we see a little bit of a problem today. And I believe it is actually connected to these news. Who knows? But it is connected to these news because the fact that New York State has now banned large data centers could be very, very big. There's no other state so far that did that. And we see this ban kicking into effect. We have the news here. New York just banned large data centers. 5 numbers explain why the backlash is spread nationwide. Governor Kathy Hochul will sign an executive order on Tuesday pausing hyperscale data centers development in New York. The order will bar the state from approving permits for projects that use 50 or more megawatts. That would be all of Elon's, of course. That would be all of the big build-outs of Oracle and some others. Not in New York State, but you get the point. And what it means is they're banning this for 1 year while officials develop a regulatory framework for assessing their impact. But 1 year stop, 1 year moratorium is pretty serious in an exponential build-out. New York has remained the economic center of the world by embracing change, but also demanding that change uplift our people, Hochul said at a press conference announcing the order. And today the winds of change have blown in with the force of a hurricane, blah, blah, blah. I don't understand why she's talking like this. I don't just want New York to be first. I want New York to be the first in the right way, she said. The moratorium will buy the state time to determine what exactly that means. It also gives Hochul, who's up for re-election in November, more time to consider a broad regulatory package passed by the state legislature next month or last month, which she has not yet signed into law. Her balancing act casts new light on a conflict playing out in communities across the country as residents push back against the effects of data center development. State and local governments are being forced to reconsider an industry they spent years courting. It's weird. They said, come to us, we can do all these things, we give you tax breaks, and now they're saying you can't be here. New York's moratorium is the clearest sign yet that the bargain that fueled the data center boom, now listen, is beginning to fray. Maybe. First, numbers help explain why governments embrace these projects in the first place and why more are now reconsidering what the growth will cost. And now they go into some summaries. Let's do this. One county gets 45% of its revenue from data centers. To understand that what governments hope data centers would deliver, it helps to look at Virginia, and we will look at Virginia in a second. The state is home to an estimated 637 data centers. You have to understand, Virginia is the number 2 state after Texas for build-out. So, 1.3 billion in annual tax revenue in Loudoun County, Virginia alone, or just about 45% of the county's total revenue. That's a lot. Okay, so this is pretty huge. There are counties that get 45% of their entire revenue from data centers. Developers rushed to claim 113 tax breaks in just 16 days. Arizona Commerce Authority received 113 applicants for data center tax incentives. So this is Arizona. Data centers could consume 12% of US electricity by 2028. By the way, right now it's 7%. We are already up there. 12% is pretty... The only reason it's only 12% by 2028 is because there are ceilings. They just can't push through it, but they would also consume 21% if they could. And growth could require 58 billion in water infrastructure. Sure, you need a little bit of water. A power line serving data center growth could cross 330 properties. This is all grid build out. We know there's a lot of problems here, right? And all of that are reasons why we have this pushback now. But as you can imagine, and I do think when you look at Micron, for example, that this crazy drop today, 7.65%, it went all the way down to 876. And you know it was much higher yesterday, right? It was close to 1,000 actually. So it's pretty volatile, and Micron is just one example. Same is true for the other semiconductors. I think it's connected. Because imagine your entire growth trajectory depends on the states building out these things. And we'll get to SpaceX in a second, because SpaceX is actually in the middle of this. So here you see another tab just for context. You see the build out of data centers, 193 in Dallas. Look, I mean, this is crazy. 152 in Phoenix, but Texas has now 395 data centers. And Virginia has 643 data centers, but I think Texas has more built out capacity. They're much bigger. I think I have a better one here. Here you see data centers under construction. So Texas and Virginia are leading by a lot in terms of construction. And this is exactly what we have to look at now. Okay. We have to look at how big is that impact and how scary is it that New York banned this. We will look into some more details. I prepared this for you guys. Here's the governor of New York, Hochul. And this is what President Trump in response now said. President Trump says one of the biggest driving forces in the future of jobs are data centers. They're big, strong, bold, and money machines for the state in which they're built. Governor Kathy Hochul, for political reasons, has terminated all data centers being built or to be built in New York State. These companies are now being sought in Alabama, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and many other states. Exactly. So President Trump makes the point we need to understand. The United States has 50 states, in case you didn't know. And that means there is no single state who can stop this. And with every state who wants to stop it, there will be other states who embrace what Trump calls liquid gold. And he names some of them, the red states: Alabama, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and many other states. New York State has made a terrible decision. All of this income and other benefits will be going to red states and some blue, where data centers are sought as cash cows with lower taxes and record-setting jobs. They must pay their own water and power, and any leftover goes back to the state and local community. Data centers are tremendous wins for the states and communities that are lucky enough to get them. New York should change its policy immediately. The radical left Democrats, beautiful word, must not be allowed to cause us to lose data centers, AI, and all of this incredible new technology to China and other countries. President Donald J. Trump. Now, whatever you think on which side you are, Hochul versus Trump, the takeaway here is this is a competitive race. the attractiveness of data center is enormous. And I do not believe that this is a sign that anything is coming to a halt anytime soon. And I posted actually something I want to show you guys right now. Here, what I posted to give you context. POTUS pitches data center build out in response to New York State. Attempts to stop or slow the build out are widespread among states. Here is the official list of actions. And I posted this. Look at this. I looked it up. Here are all the states. Famous Delaware, who's bleeding companies because everyone is leading Delaware, Dexit, because they did terrible things to Tesla, and now Coinbase and all kinds of other companies are leaving Delaware because they have failed in their mission to provide shareholder protection. So, but besides that, you see all the different states here introducing bills. Moratorium on permits for data centers over 100 megawatt. Forbids local governments from permitting data centers until December 2028. Moratorium data centers, blah, 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 no data centers, no data centers. So all of these are new laws that are brought, or new bills brought to the floor of the respective state legislators to actually stop the data centers. But look at this. Status introduced, no one knows. Status here, Maine, vetoed. Governor says no. Maryland failed. Minnesota failed. New Hampshire failed, so they didn't get the votes. New York, they passed the legislature. Okay, we just heard that. So that passed. Oklahoma failed. Pennsylvania introduced. South Dakota, red state, failed. Wisconsin, I think red state, failed. So what you see here is already, there are many states who didn't try yet. There are many states that tried. Some got vetoed, like Maine. Others failed, like Minnesota, New Hampshire. South Dakota failed. They didn't get it through the legislature. And you already see, what does it mean? Well, Minnesota is open for business. New Hampshire is open for business. Wisconsin is open for business. South Dakota is open for business. And even Maine is open for business. So that's happening. And you see, there will be a lot of incentives out there. So I do not think that this is the end. And I think there will be resistance. There will be increasing resistance. I don't think there's any doubt about that. There will also be increasing impact of AI in 2027 and then exponential impact in 2028. And people will get incredibly angry. And then we see real problems coming. But for now, I do not think the build out can be held up. For now, I think what we actually see is an increasing friction into the build out that will not really play out anytime soon in the next 12 months. But it will be increasing pressure. And what does it mean for our favorite companies? It means for semiconductors, it means for RAM, we will hit a little bit of a scare here and then, but this is a very unsustainable scare because they will keep selling their stuff like crazy. We will see for companies like SpaceX, which I told you guys, I believe the overlooked aspect of SpaceX is not Starlink. I had a great discussion with Larry Goldberg yesterday. It is not Starlink because Starlink cannot scale EBIT fast enough to fill out that crazy 1.8 trillion, 1.78 trillion valuation. Stock has come down a lot, by the way, 10% down over the last week. Today also down. I sold some short calls at 180, of course kept all the money. I de-risked it a little bit with some gains, half of the position when I saw that there's a lot of short interest, so I'm always scared of short squeezes. I think SpaceX will struggle for now because there's more share unlocks coming. Tomorrow we have a great launch, by the way. I think it will go well, but it's overrated a little bit in my opinion. They need cash. And where's the cash coming from? What is their main potential be? Today had a great analyst meeting here at Pioneer Alpha with a Pioneer Treasury analysts working on the exact projections of SpaceX bringing in more of the most important short-term EBIT, which is their data centers. It is Colossus 1, Well, that's leased out to Anthropic. Colossus 2, which is in the middle of a giant build-out with Blackwell 300s and B200s. And of course, there's Colossus 3, adjacent to Colossus 2, same campus, being built out in Missouri. And that has enormous potential to double and triple SpaceX's earnings in a very short period of time, potentially. But I do think all these discussions impact SpaceX negatively because people are scared. Will there be more legislation introduced, like New York State, maybe in Missouri, maybe even in Memphis in Tennessee? I absolutely don't think so, but there's a lawsuit already against them to try to hold up these data centers. So all of that creates some doubt in the market if they can actually build this out. And that is the main support for the stock, the main reason this stock might go up in the short term. The only reason, in my opinion, is massive cash coming in through more compute leases, through a much bigger thing than Colossus 1. So I think that could happen in the next 6 months. We are coming to the conclusion it's more likely than not that something big is going to happen on the cash side. And all of this now boils down to the big question, is this New York action an indication for something huge happening? Is this something huge, something very concerning or not? You know my opinion. In the short term, what is that? In the short term, it is not a problem. It is overrated. But we already see things like that the data center build out boom hits some form of walls, and the walls are not demand. Demand is through the roof. The walls are, is there enough energy? What about the permitting? What about this increasing resistance? This is data center construction annual growth in percent. Of course, it's still growing on a very high basis. This is growth. Of course, it's not going down. The growth is declining, but it's still continuing. And we see some real hits here because this has nothing to do with demand. Very important. This is a supply constraint. Where's the land? Where's the energy? Where are the permits? And this becomes exponentially more difficult. Now, here's how I view this whole thing for SpaceX. In the short term, SpaceX will win. No one is going to stop Colossus 3 and Colossus 2. That will get them to 2 gigawatts, which gives them a lot more revenue, probably 5 times the revenue they have right now, up to 5 times. So it would be 125 billion in revenue. That would be whatever, 50 billion in EBIT, maybe after depreciation. That's very big. But I do believe Colossus 4 or whatever will be exponentially harder to get because of permitting. Not because of RAM, not because of chips. It will be permitting. There will be extremely hostile environment coming up. So in the short term, I'm not concerned. In the midterm, friction will increase. I think they will pull off maybe Colossus 4 because it's Elon. They're going to find some state that allows that. And in 2027, very savvy operators and very big operators like SpaceX will continue to succeed the build out. But in 2028 and 9, we will hit serious problems because the political toxicity will go through the roof. Is that bad for SpaceX? Well, we have to consider that SpaceX's main pitch is actually space AI. And so the question is, the door is closing, the walls are closing in on the entire industry. And I think by 2030, there will be enormous problems. And so the question for SpaceX in the long term come down to the question, if they can pull off space AI, space-based orbital AI, by 2028, and if they can get to multi-gigawatt scale in 2028, I do think they can, by the way, and most people do not think so, but I do think they can. And if they can pull that off, the walls closing in become a push forcing function into EBIT for SpaceX. Because then the entire world, at least the entire United States, will run for the exits, the space exits, the SPCX, and buy everything SpaceX has to offer. So this story could flip into a very powerful story for SpaceX. And in the short term, this year and also the first half of next year, I think SpaceX can actually surprise to the upside because the terrestrial build-out will succeed and Hokul and others will not stop it. That is my take on this crazy situation. And let's go to the comments and questions. to see what is going on. Which picture do we want for the questions? So we are entertained. What is this? 12-year clear current data pipeline. So here you see the backlog clearance timeline. We need 11.8 years to clear the backlog. So the demand is going through the roof. Okay, backlog is going up because demand for data centers goes up while build out is going down. Good for anyone who can build, but it's becoming exponentially harder to build. Interesting situation, especially for Micron and others. Because if this comes to a grinding hold of some sort, then we see a total implosion of Micron, for example. But we also have the entire world waiting for this stuff. Maybe we keep it at Micron here. Interesting. Let's see what you guys have to ask today. Data center Detroit. Let's start at the beginning. What are the questions here? Johnny Aya says, AOC scares Amazon away. Now a whole cool moratorium on data centers. I'm ashamed of my state. AMD has recovered a bit. Micron is building a 100 billion mega fab complex in Clay, New York. Texas is open for business. New York, not so much. Red states, they should generate all or most of the power that is required. Data centers will warm up Maine in the winter. Massachusetts is probably next. Good points. Michael, what is your outlook for Bitcoin MicroStrategy? Do you think Stretch will return on something close to 100 par value? I mean, Stretch is a total function of the market trust into their ability to execute. We can make a little excursion to MicroStrategy. Let's see what they're doing today. Down and Bitcoin going strong relatively. Bitcoin, Ethereum looking good. MicroStrategy looking weak. I think there's absolutely nothing to be concerned of. MicroStrategy pulled off great capital raises. They have their coffers filled with $3 billion. I have zero concerns. I think the market is a little crazy here. Of course, if you hold MicroStrategy or Stretch, I mean, you're at the mercy of the market a little bit short term. You're at the mercy of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin crashes, you will crash. If Bitcoin goes up, you will go up. If Bitcoin goes up, you will go up much more than Bitcoin because we have a lot of catching up to do. So ultimately, short term and midterm, this is a bet on Bitcoin. It's that simple. There is nothing about MicroStrategy that introduces any additional risk, in my opinion. I mean, of course, there's some tiny little things, but nothing of relevance. I do not see any additional risk on MicroStrategy other than Bitcoin risk. So I think it's a leveraged bet. If you like Bitcoin, if you believe Bitcoin recovers in the next year, goes back to 100,000 or something, that's your bet. I think strategy makes you more money than Bitcoin. But could there be panic if Bitcoin crashes to 40,000? Could MicroStrategy completely panic and then, you know, whatever, destabilize the whole story? Sure. So it's kind of a leveraged bet. That's what I think about MicroStrategy. What else do we have going on here? MicroStrategy. We have Mark asking, new generation in US, rare in US. In Missouri, you can exploit and run jet engines 24/7 in a poor neighborhood. Not a single person on the street would welcome this in their neighborhood. Shameful. Sure, there are problems. The midterm elections are super important. Yeah, are they super important? I think the Democrats get the House as long as the Republicans keep the Senate, which is expected. I mean, not too much is going to happen. I think it's important that we don't see like a total blue wave that could create serious problems. It's very hard to stop the Democrats from taking the House. So I don't agree that it's like super important in the sense that we don't know what's going to happen. It's super important that nothing extreme happens, let me put it like this. And tomorrow, Trump will have some surprises. Let's see how important that is, his speech about elections. Ian says, what about unused office blocks, solar on the outside, data center on the inside? I think you're thinking about energy and you need a lot of solar. I mean, you have to look into that, what a gigawatt means, or 100 megawatt. This is like insane. You need like solar blocks like the size of Manhattan. And even if you have the energy, what about the cooling? What about the water? So these are non-trivial things, okay? I think the United States is a very big country. They should find places to build them. I don't understand what the problem is. John says, yes, data center Detroit. Yeah, if there would be a little bit more visionary people also in Europe, in Canada, in the US, in Mexico, whatever, you probably don't want to build in Mexico. How hard can it be to build these stupid data centers? It's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of a pathetic failure of government, in my opinion. Where are the leaders in all the in Texas maybe, the governors, the leadership of these states, the leadership of small countries in Europe, in Iceland, well, Iceland has to be cautious with the environment. In Canada, what's the problem? In Sydney, in Australia, why don't they build giant solar panels there? I don't understand. Michael asks, would Joe be a significant buyer of SpaceX's 100? Michael, I said it before, I will say it again. For me, let's go to SpaceX. For me, SpaceX is not a stock. It's a stock that I want to own, that Pioneer Lands wants to own through the Pioneer Reserve, through Pioneer Bonds for all of us. And we will add it to the portfolio. Pioneer Alpha will get it. But for me, SpaceX is actually a story that is not price dependent, but time dependent. Because in this specific case, there will be too much selling pressure for my taste all the way up to November. So I'm not looking at a specific price, I'm looking at a specific point in time. So if we are at 130 in November and the selling pressure is over, I will add it to the portfolio. If it's at 90, I will add it. If it's 150, I will add it. I do think it will go down, and I do think it will bottom more on a time scale around there. I think it's still very expensive because we don't know what these data centers are going to give us. I think it's much more likely than not that we will get to 30 billion, 40 billion EBIT next year because of these data centers. And then you would have at 1 trillion a 50 PE. At 2 trillion, you would have 100 PE. I think 100 price earnings ratio for SpaceX is still very cheap. So that would be a little higher than here, would be 150. But that assumes that they get, 40 billion in EBIT. They have 11 billion right now, run rate or something. So they need to grow by 300% their earnings. I think they will. And then it becomes a pretty reasonable pitch. Then you can dig in. At 100 price earnings, that's much lower than Tesla. You can dig in and say, now we can bridge a year into space satellites. Right? If you had 100 price earnings, I would be a buyer. But a lot of things have to happen for that. And of course, the lower the better. But I'm not looking for 80 or 90 or 100. If this thing crashes like a stone in September to 80, I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to wait until November, because if it crashes to 80, it can also crash to 50. It could also totally not do that. So I'm looking more at the mechanics and timeline than at a price, because the market, the price discovery, the PE you actually want to pay, who the hell knows? And with SpaceX, I really have a timeline in mind. I think 2028 will be tremendous. The second half of 2027 will be littered with amazing catalysts. I think right now there will be huge selling catalysts coming in just mechanically. On the other side of the equation, there will be more compute revenue, potentially significantly more, but they're just too highly valued for that to lead to a run-up. That's what I think. Okay. Stretch should be able to pay dividends for at least 18 months. I agree, John Ray, but people don't think like that. They're like all panicky. I bought a few around 140. Oops, I don't care holding for 5 years plus. If you are a 5-year horizon investor, SpaceX is definitely a buy. I just think, why not wait? HAL 9000, the famous HAL 9000, the beginning of AI becoming a political football, perhaps with New York banning data center build-out. Yes. I mean, AI is now on an exponential trajectory to become the ultimate political football. Do you think Tesla's stock is a buy? Yes, I think so. Tesla is a safer bet than SpaceX for now, for the next 6 months. Much safer, in my opinion. Much safer. But Micron also pretty good. There's too much hand-wringing over SpaceX. Let Elon cook. If it drops, I'll add. That makes sense. Until or unless you recognize there is a war going on, Democrats and globalists versus Trump, you won't understand what's going on, says Scott. I understand there's a war going on. I don't know how big the war is. Like, you know, this is a political discussion. Is the war actually that big, or is Trump also on their side secretly, or what is even happening? Who knows? I think there's definitely some sort of war going on. We will know more tomorrow. Not everything, but we will know more after his speech about the election. I think there is no doubt that Trump, at the minimum, is not completely on their side behind the scenes. There is definitely something going on. Fine Setham says, what's the right to pull out your money? What amount when it goes down? I don't understand the question totally. Scott, the government of New York is practically a movie villain. I agree. Like the Joker. Not the only one, but yes. Same as the government of California, that's for sure. And Virginia, I don't know him or her. And other blue hellholes of Marxist and fascist revolutionaries. Yeah, I mean, I think Hokul wouldn't even contest that. I think Hokul admits she's the Joker. I think. I'm not sure. We have to ask her. I know that Newsom is clearly owning it. So, yes, she looks like it. So, you never know what's in their minds, but it's definitely something dubious. So, we will see how this pans out. But from an investment perspective, can this scare the markets? The markets are easily scared. When you look at Micron, for example, I think SpaceX, smart analysts understand that the main catalyst for SpaceX is the build-out. Supersonic Asian says, sell Tesla in November at all-time highs, then buy SpaceX at all-time lows. Well, that would be the perfect trade. That's my theory too, Supersonic Asian, but of course we don't know. That is a likely scenario that this is very smart, but can I guarantee it? No. But I agree, this is a scenario that is more likely than not to happen. Tesla going up, SpaceX going down, and then at the top and low you flip. But this is also some wishful thinking on my side. Would be nice. Michael Bush is asking, you suppose Kathy Hochul holds a significant position in SpaceX? Of course not. Well, secretly maybe. Who knows? So that is going on. What else is going on? There's a lot going on. But this is the story for today. It was important to cover this. You know that we have to watch the age of AGI unfold. And these are important, very important developments, because the politicization will continue to increase dramatically, and we need to stay on top of that. So that is all very important. What is this here? Pretty important merger question. Investors. Here's an interesting latest development on the earnings call for Tesla. Oh, did someone delete it? To reward long-term Tesla retail shareholders for their loyalty, can you commit to achieving at least half of the goals outlined in your 2025 compensation plan before considering any offer to acquire much Tesla? That's a little crazy question. The answer is no. That will be interesting what's happening next. Yeah, and you see, like, in context with what we just discussed, you also see Oracle absolutely plunging 30% over the past month and including today. I tell you guys, data center build-out is one of the weirdest things that ever happened. And if in doubt, trust capitalism to find a way. If you have overwhelming demand, you have now also all the pieces of supply will totally figure itself out. I have no doubt the chips, the RAM, the turbines, all of the equipment around it, that's not a problem. This is called capitalism. People will produce that stuff to the extent needed very, very quickly. Have no doubt about that. The idea that policy alone can stop data centers is dumb. It can create friction, but it can't stop them. In order to stop data centers at large, with no loopholes going to Texas or whatever, you would need 10 times or 100 times more resistance than you have now. Now, will you have potentially 100 times more resistance than now in 2029 or 8? Yes, potentially, but until then, we will see lots of more data centers being built out. So that's what I think. Just on a first principle level, you can't stop these things if the market wants it unless you have massive resistance. James says, who cares? They will build in Texas. Yes, Texas can absorb a lot of data centers. Did you see Senator Warren welcoming Walsh to his new position today? I didn't see that, Johnny Aya. What did she say now? Pocahontas, what is she up to? Scott, expect every blue state to ban data centers. They are crazed pagan earth mother worshipping Druids. Well, I lived in California. I know what you mean. They don't really believe in anything except power, but they use climate alarmism as an excuse. I don't think that is true for all of the blue states. I think that's true for the loonies, but there are reasonable blue states. As we saw, I mean, there are some that didn't pass this legislation. So we should never forget, not every blue state is California or New York. And on top of that, you have all the red states. You have more than enough red states to make this happen. The blue states would love data centers if there was a Dem behind the push, exactly. But it's not right now. Okay, so that's the news for today. Tesla doesn't do anything interesting today, so there's not much to talk about there. AI3, wow, whole Mars. No, that wasn't whole Mars. He doesn't have AI3. Someone used now AI3 to go. Should we just do final check before we stop it? Robotaxi news, probably nothing. I think more rollouts in Austin. July 13th, July 14th. Alexandra. Oh no, I knew that before. Tesla news about are insane. Tesla's bought a new covered vehicle yes, I saw this. Samsung Foundry employee confirmed that Tesla AI5 chip has completed the tape out phase. I know. Tesla FSD version new out, yes. Testing in Houston, Cybercap. Wait times for Tesla's Robotaxi Miami report to have been under 5 minutes. Interesting. Cybercap spotted in Massachusetts parking lots showing off to the public. Tesla FSD looking to be approved in Germany. I know, but it's not happening yet. Peggy. This is interesting. I saw this yesterday. This is, let's wrap it up with this is Houston. This is a parking lot of the Robotaxis and the Cybercap, as you will see in a second. So it's pretty big. Cars ready to do something in Houston. There's a Cybercap. Do we have more Cybercaps coming? Here. I mean, it's very interesting. Once we understand what Tesla is actually doing there, why are they deploying all these Cybercaps everywhere? I told you guys the only reason can be that they want to use them. You don't deploy them to all kinds of cities for no reason. It remains my theory. New York, by the way. Cybercap now. Elon needs to get the data centers into space as soon as possible to avoid all the resistance that will surely build on Earth and might become a huge election issue in 2028 along with AI in general. HAL 9000, the super ASI says that, and he is absolutely right. Yes. Nature says billionaires don't care about the impact of the data centers on human life. If you live next to one of these behemoths, you wouldn't like them either. I don't like them next to me, but I hope they build them responsibly. It can't be that hard. There should never be a dam behind the push unless there was a payoff right that came with Scott. Sometimes I think Scott doesn't like dams. If EU goes FSD positive, how might that affect the Tesla brand and all the other brands? I think it's a total win. It's an inevitable and quick and soon and unexpected total win for Tesla. I think FSD drives Tesla sales in Europe up a lot, and I think FSD will get a move by more countries. I think Germany will happen this year, and that's a very big deal once it happens in Germany. The effect of approving FSD in Europe is just that it drives sales a lot, in my opinion. Elon needs to get the data center space. Yes, yes, yes. Warren will find a way to slow cyber cap in Massachusetts. Yeah, I mean, Warren is just a psycho-cheat from cyber. Never cede ground to the fascist left, says Scott. The water issue is bogus, so just prove it and take away the talking point. That's not so easy, Scott. You can't just, you know, the whole point is you can't just prove a point and then knock it out. That's not how it works. They just go in circles. They just do it again. And then they have a new audience that never heard your first point. So proving points doesn't work, unfortunately. I don't mind them slowing down the data center build. My Google stock took a big hit from the racing to spend money. I did a video yesterday. Check out my video from yesterday where I looked at the cash flow impact of the CapEx and then explained why this is all bogus. I mean, look at Google. Google is doing very fine and will continue to do very fine and will do very fine because of the data centers. It's an earnings driver, a huge earnings driver. Why would a company apply to build a data center in a deep blue state when there are vast amounts of barren desert? I don't know, Michael. It's not that simple. Once you actually look for the solutions, it's easy to find the spots. I don't know why it's not so hard. I didn't even hear anything. Is it still on? I don't hear anything. Do we still have music on? I can't hear anything. Huh? I couldn't even hear the music. Why is there music? Why can you hear music? And this is like the next level of annoyance. That for you it's too loud, for I can't even hear it. Something is wrong with this whole thing. Here we have we're putting up this. What about this? Now we have quiet. It's gone. Very good. Okay, guys. That's the news for now. Thanks for tuning in. Any more questions? Earnings are coming up next week. Well, we'll cover that extensively. We have a Sunday show, of course, coming. I'm working on a better format with more news. And then we will see what happens. Should we take a final look at Tesla maybe? Tesla doesn't do anything today. Last time I checked. Tesla, nothing. Literally nothing. Tesla dragging its feet. I still believe there will be a tiny little run up maybe before earnings because everyone knows it's good earnings. But what does it mean? 410 maybe? That won't change much. SpaceX, Micron getting slaughtered. I think this is because of because of what do they talk about? China here? 94 billion wiped out today. It's so insane. The Micron valuation is truly insane. I have to do the latest math. It's probably under 8 forward price earnings 2027. Let that sink in. Or 2026. Let that sink in. Like, I think they're gonna come in at 60, no, at more, 80 billion or something, or more. They're 105 billion earnings, and they're trading at 890 billion market. I mean, this is completely nuts. CXMT is launching the offering as Micron trades at levels reflecting supply crunch management. Supply crunch. Do you guys see this? I'm sharing my screen. No, you don't even see my screen. Here I found this nice little article on Micron. Yeah, merciful to you, but I'm switched long now. I'm long Micron now. I think now it's a very good time to be long Micron. Look at this. Because there is a floor. You can't, like, where is this thing going to go if it's at 7.5 or 8 times price earnings? 8 times 2026 price earnings growing at 300%. Like, are you kidding me? At some point it can't drop anymore. That's what I think. I think it's getting, and when I look at the options premiums, oh my God, going short puts, writing some puts here at the money. Juicy, extremely juicy. Okay, very good. Let's wrap it up. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow, and you guys take care. Interesting things happening. We will bring you the latest tomorrow again. Thank you so much. See you soon.